Our last lesson in Chapter 3, Lesson 3-9, is changing units of measure. This is the process called dimensional analysis, and we will be changing from very simple unit of measures and some very complex unit of measures as we go through this particular lesson. These are conversions that you should be memorizing at this point. We have given out a half sheet of paper in class. It's also available on my website if you need to print them off. I would highly recommend you making flashcards at this point to make sure that you are familiar with all of these particular measures. So I pose this question. Look at these three questions and tell me what the difference is between these three things. Hopefully you're realizing that there is no difference between the three objects that we have there. That all of the things in parentheses are 1. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 4 over 4 is also 3. And 3 times that complex fraction is also 3. What we're showcasing here is that 1 can take many different forms. It can take the form of 1 itself. It could take the form of 4 over 4. It can also take the form of 5 plus 2 over 4 plus 3. That's important to know as we move forward. When you're making conversion factors, first let's understand what conversion factors are. They are fractions that are equivalent to 1, but they allow for changes in the types of units that we need. An example of a conversion factor would be 16 ounces over 1 pound. 16 ounces is equal to 1 pound, so therefore that fraction is equal to 1. The process by which we use conversion factors to change from one unit to another is called dimensional analysis. Here are steps to completing dimensional analysis. The first thing we want to do is put the initial units over 1. We take whatever units were initially given and we put it over 1. What we want to do from here is then figure out the best way to get from one measure to another. When we figure out that best way, we should now set up conversion factors to go from one unit of measure to another. We want to make sure that we cross out units that are diagonal from each other. The only unit that shouldn't be crossed out is the unit at the end, which inevitably is the one that we are trying to get to. We then should multiply across the top and bottom of all fractions and simplify our final answer at the end. Okay, let's take a look at our first example. The first example we have here is to convert 99 feet into yards. My first step is to set up my initial units over 1, which I've done here. I put 99 feet over 1. I then need to figure out a conversion factor or conversion factors to get from yards to feet. In this case, I only need 1, and that's 3 feet in 1 yard. So I set up that conversion factor, and I cross-cancel my feet. I'm now in my desired unit of measure in yards, and I'm left with 99 over 3 yards, and that simplifies to 33 yards. Here's a little bit harder example. Let's convert 48 cups into gallons. I start out again with 48 cups over 1. And then I do my first conversion factor, which for me will be cups to pints. I know that there are 2 cups and 1 pint. Therefore, at that point, I can cross-cancel my units of cups. I now have 1 pint. I can go from 2 pints to 1 quart. That's another conversion factor, and that gets rid of pints for me. I am now in quarts. I could do a conversion factor of 4 quarts in 1 gallon. That gets rid of quarts for me. I'm now in my desired unit of measure. I multiply across the top and I multiply across the bottom to get 48 over 16, which reduces to 3 gallons. Here's an example that'll get even more difficult. If 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters, convert 30 yards to meters. We need to round to the nearest tenth at the end. The key part here is that 1 inch equal to 2.54 centimeters is important, and I'll probably have to use that conversion factor at some point. It's also a conversion factor that I don't need to know because I'm being given it. I'm going to start out with 30 yards over 1. I'm noticing in the conversion factor that was given to me that it gave me inches. So I probably want to head towards inches in terms of yards. I know that my yards to feet conversion is 3 feet to 1 yard. I then can cross out yards. So now I have feet, and I can go from feet to inches by making a conversion factor of 12 inches to 1 foot. I then can get rid of feet. Now I'm going to use the conversion factor that I was given in the problem. 1 inch equal to 2.54 centimeters. I'm going to put the inch on the bottom so I can cross cancel. I now am in centimeters and I need to convert to meters. So from here, my conversion factor is 1 meter to 100 centimeters. I can now cross cancel my centimeters. When I multiply across the top and bottom, I get 2,743.2 over 100. When I simplify that, I get 27.432, which rounds to 27.4 meters. Your homework in this section is textbook page 237, numbers 4 to 20 even.